And hello everyone, welcome to this fun video where I'm talking about my deck that I used for the good old Lorcana HQ tournament. Now, mind you, this deck was thrown together really quickly. I barely made the cutoff to even join the tournament. I think I joined just before the tournament entries closed. So this could have had a few more tweaks, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about each of the cards here and give a little bit of a breakdown on why I chose the cards that I did. Mind you, did I make a few mistakes? Yes, because there's one card in particular I thought it did something else. So keep that in mind. It's not perfect. I'm not the best player in the world. Somehow I managed to win the tournament, which is pretty awesome. So our first card we have here is Sergeant Tibbs. Tibbs is a 1-cost with a 2/2. Now, the reason I chose Tibbs is because I was worried about facing Lilo early on with the Amber Emerald deck that is just kind of running around rampant everywhere. So I realized I needed a card that could at least deal 1 damage to get rid of Lilo, or if there was a Stitch, I wanted to get rid of Stitch, so I wanted to do something with 2 damage. Technically, a lot of people have been running Mini with this, which is a really good choice too. I mean, the 1/1/3 or Olaf, but it's one of those I felt Tibbs was the best bet because that way you could at least trade with a lot of people. And typically I'm not going to be questing too much with Tibbs, except in the championship I ended up questing a bunch of times and getting, I think it was 9 lore with Tibbs. It was insane. But Tibbs was my choice. If I had to redo it, I might consider going Mini instead. However, personally, I just think Tibbs is a better option, even though that might not be what's mathematically the best to most people. Our next one was Gaston, which I will not lie, I rushed to throw this together. I thought he had Rush on him. So, to my surprise, after the first game, I realized, wait, he has Reckless. I would still keep 1 or 2 Gastons in a deck if you do want to do Ruby Amethyst. However, I would say take out at least 2 Gastons, put in 2 LeFous, because he is much better with preparing. Dragonfire, I had 4 of them. I don't think there was anyone else in the tournament that ran 4 Dragonfires, because to a lot of people, having too many uninkables is a bad thing. For me, I play very much just YOLO. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So I had 4 of these. They came in clutch. They won me multiple games where I had to come back from crazy comebacks, including the one over Berlin, which was, I think, a 19-1 differential, and it came down to drawing a Dragonfire and coming back to win the final game. So Dragonfire, to me, I always will cap this at 4, even if it does not make mathematical sense. Even to their starting guidebook, if you have more than 16 uninkable, to me, I have to have that many Dragonfires. Maui is a character that I knew I needed some type of rush, and I didn't want to rely fully on what I thought at the time was Gaston, along with Rafiki, so I needed a bigger one where I could ink Maui if need be, but the 6/5 is also nice as he manages to get rid of a few other threats I was looking at, such as Elsa, who have 6 willpower. Having Maui in there was huge. Even though a lot of other people don't run 4 Mauis, I found it helpful because that way, if I drew a Maui didn't need him, he's easy to ink. If I drew him and needed him, then it was perfect. Now, I ran with this Aladdin 4 times. I, in hindsight, probably would have put 1 or 2 of these Aladdins as well, even if it went over the 60 card count, because the shift was huge and I did not think about it at the time. I would say Aladdin was one of the MVP cards I had in my deck. It was Aladdin, Ursula's Cauldron, and Dragonfire, probably in that order, just because Aladdin managed to turn so many games around by adding 2 and reducing 2 from the opponent that it made a lot of my insane comebacks possible. I don't know why you wouldn't want to run 4 Aladdins. The baby ones, though, I would probably run 1 or 2 just to have as a shift option, more for, you know, strategy, so that way if the opponent sees baby Aladdin, they might back off just a little bit from, you know, questing, which helps you as you try to get control. I ran 4 Be Prepareds. I know a lot of other people only ran 3 or 2. To me, it is the scariest card in the deck. I know it's technically, again, not good to run that many uninkables, but to me, I was like, if I'm gonna run that many uninkables, I want to have 4 Be Prepareds because they are awesome, and the card art is just so good. Like, so good. Hopefully I get that signed someday. Mickey Mouse Brave Little Tailor. That is 1 card that I ran 4 of. And mind you, I normally just ended up inking him. I don't know if I would technically have 4 in another deck if I redid this, just because he is very hard to build to, and if I was playing anyone else that was playing Ruby, he was instant Dragonfire, or if they were Sapphire, he was instant Hades or Let It Go. However, he is such a strong card with the 4 lore that a lot of times having him in there was a good way to bait different Dragonfires or Maleficents. So I would probably stick to maybe 3 instead of 4, but to me, Mickey Mouse, Brave Little Tailor is a very important card to have in your deck. Maleficent might be a 9 cost, but she is my queen, and besides being probably my favorite villain of all time, besides maybe Chernabog, I mean, I just can't see any way you run less than 4. The hard part is, because she's a 9, I often would have to ink her turn 1 or 2 in most of my games, which is not the most ideal thing considering I wanted to keep her, but it made sense to keep her inked because I knew if I just held her in my hand for too long, it would cost me some games. Befuddle, I ran 2 of. I know a lot of people ran 4 of them, but to me, my Befuddle was mainly, if I had it on turn 1 opening hand, I would end up keeping it just in case I ran into a Lilo. And if there was no Lilo on, or the purple 1 cost Maleficent on turn 1 for my opponent, then I would just ink it immediately. It became one of those. It was also nice late game because then if anyone had any items out, such as Shields of Virtue, Magic Mare, or Cauldron, I would just immediately Befuddle it back just to make them stall 1 turn. Even though it might not cost much for them just to play it back, it at least makes them rethink their strategy a little bit, so I found Befuddle quite nice. Ursula's Cauldron, I only ran 1 of them. I might have ran 2, potentially, but I ran 1, and it made it really nice because it dictated a lot of my games, because then I was able to just say, okay, what card am I going to draw next? And it allowed me not only that turn to think ahead, it allowed me some leverage going into the next turn, because then I could say, oh, okay, well, I know if this character will not be banished, that's okay, because the next turn they're going to be banished, so let me just go ahead and let them get 1 more. It's fine right now. Ursula's Cauldron to me is a very underrated card, and it wins you a lot of games as long as you're not playing anyone with Beast. That is the only time when Ursula's Cauldron would not be a good card, of course. Friends on the other side, I don't really need to say much about this. Ran 4 of them, they're an amazing card as long as you don't play a whole new world, because if you play a whole new world, your opponent's going to deck you, which at that point I would ink Friends on the Other Side every time I played someone with a whole new world. Maleficent Sorceress, I played 4 of her, which, similar to Friends on the Other Side, she was really nice because a lot of times I would combo her by playing her and then having her sing Friends on the Other Side the next turn, because I knew 1 lore wouldn't make much of a difference, and with her 2/2 stat line, I also knew that it wasn't really useful to try to run her into someone unless it was, a Maleficent or a Lilo 1 cost. So she was really useful just for card draw, especially in late game whenever I had about 10 ink. I would play her after a Be Prepared, so that way I could at least get someone out there, and that way I could draw a card hoping to draw some Dragonfire. Rafiki, I had 3 Rafikis, which he came in handy late game. Early game, he actually ended up being a hindrance a lot of the times just because I needed ink as I ran so much in Inkable, so I might have dropped him down to 2 Rafikis. But I mean, it's Rafiki. If I had Dr. Facilier, I think it would have been an even better combo, but for what he brought to the table, he was quite valuable, and a lot of times I ended up just playing him and straight up doing lore with him because he has 3 attack, which can at least get rid of some attacking enemies, which is nice. Jetsam was an interesting one because I wanted a character that can at least get some attention from my opponent, whether it's Dragonfire, whether it's Maleficent, Smash, etc. And also I wanted him to have at least 3 willpower, just because I wanted to make sure that he can live past a cannon fire. So I got 4 of him. I think I probably would end up mixing 2 Pongos in and taking out 2 Jetsams just to have a little bit of variety, since Pongo has the extra lore. But Jetsam's 3 attack also came in handy, since there were a few times I ended up attacking 2/3 opponents just to get rid of them, knowing that Jetsam really could not get removed the next turn because of the evasive, which was quite nice. I ran 4 of the Queen, which the Queen was amazing. She drew me a lot of cards, and also I ended up using her for attacking a lot more than I expected because the 4/5 stat line is actually really nice. She could get rid of a lot of threats without having to worry about being banished. Her ability was really good, especially playing her right after a Be Prepared, because then it at least gave me an option to have someone out there. Does my enemy Dragonfire, not wanting me to draw a card? Or if they don't Dragonfire, do I just go ahead and draw a card and then start building pretty quickly because of her ability, along with her ability to just be there for 5 willpower? Ursula is a card that a lot of people thought was a bit odd for being in the deck, but personally Ursula won me quite a few games as well, because if you play her, the opponent loses 1 lore, and then I draw a card for that lore lost. Obviously in multiplayer it's even better. But the biggest thing I liked is the 8 willpower. You would basically have to Dragonfire her off, because otherwise she's going to get 3 lore the next turn. Or I would sometimes actually sing Be Prepared with her to just clear board immediately without having to use all my ink. She was really good. I ran 2 of her. I wanted to run more because, you know, she's so strong, but I figured with that much uninkable, it's safer to run 1 extra Rafiki and 1 less Ursula. So I ran 2 of her in this deck. And the final card in my deck was Elsa. Elsa was probably the 4th best character I had in this deck. Elsa, I mainly got her just to team up with Aladdin, so I put Aladdin down first, then put out Elsa, have Aladdin hit the weaker target, opponent could not ready up again the next turn, and then Aladdin could hit the other target if he still managed to live. So it worked out quite well. Elsa is such an amazing card, and the artwork is absolutely beautiful. I mean, that's one of the best looking artworks we have. I would highly recommend running 4 Elsas to anyone. It was a little bit of a risky deck, I will admit, since I ran 18 uninkables, and I was actually going to run 19 uninkables, but went down. Just because there was a lot of times I would dead hand, which is what caused me to usually go in the series win 2-1, but that 1 loss would be because I literally could not play anything until I drew an inkable. So my only recommendation is if you do mulligan with this, a lot of people were like, just go hard for Be Prepared. I found it easier just to try to get as much inkables as I can, and instead I would mulligan for Maleficent and Friends on the other side. Just try to build that up, unless I realized early on that I was going to play someone with a whole new world, then I would make sure to get Be Prepared. I don't think Be Prepared is the most important card to mulligan into. I really do think that it's Maleficent and Friends on the other side, because you could build out so much from that. Hopefully that helped you, and thank you to everyone that helped put on the tournament, did the commentary. Thanks to all my opponents that I played. I mean, everyone was super nice. It was just a really good time. I had 0 self-confidence I would win a single match, much less go without a loss. So it's just a weird feeling. If anyone has any more questions on my deck, do let me know, as I would love to kind of help brainstorm a newer one that's a little bit better. Kind of a mixture of the one that Steadfast and I both used. And I do hope you all have a great day. Do like and subscribe if this helped you out, and I will have some more Lorcana content coming out very shortly. Walter out.